Joining me now from Statuary Hall in Washington, D.C., representing Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, Congressman Mark Green. Congressman, you are an Army veteran, I believe, from the Iraq War 2002, if I am correct, if I have my facts correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you look at what happened
that's right.
to our guys in Syria there, does it tell you, hey, we need to accelerate a withdrawal, or does it tell you that, hey, the Islamic State is not defeated and we need to stay there?
I think the parameters that the president put out are good parameters. They came from Bolton, actually, when Bolton made the statement that we're going to make sure that we can prevent ISIS from returning to power and, of course, protect our Kurdish allies. So I think they'll continue to apply that criteria, and this may slow things instead of hasten them.
So does that mean that we ought to stick around for a little while and make sure the mission is not complete? With all due respect to the Vice President of the United States, we just heard him say that ISIS, I call them the Islamic State, I also call them subhumans, is defeated. Well, clearly they're not defeated. Again, all due respect to Mike Pence, they're not defeated. So again, do we stick with the mission and make sure that the Islamic State is not allowed to reform in northern Syria? I mean, that would be a worst-case scenario, obviously. We want to make sure our footprint is relatively small in Syria. It's only a couple thousand troops. So do we stick it out a little bit longer?
Well, I'm very confident that we're going to do what it takes to make sure ISIS does not return to power. And there's a significant difference between, I mean, and it's hard to make the argument. I mean, if you're that soldier who the van is showing up to tell their family, you know, look, your husband's not coming home, or what, that's a horrible, horrible. I've been there. I've actually been in that van when that message has been given, and in that instance, you know, policy seems to not be relevant. It's you're waking up to a completely changed life. But you can't put that into the policy discussion. We have to make a decision based on what is the enemy situation on the ground. And, you know, I think having the intel that ISIS is where they are right now will compel us to continue the fight. And I guess that's the best way to say it. I anticipate we'll continue the fight.
Tactically speaking, practically speaking, when you are a boot on the ground in a country like that, you're in Iraq, these guys are in Syria, I have heard that you all are most vulnerable when the enemy knows that you're pulling out, and attacks like this are prone to happen. Is that an accurate characterization?
I think that's very fair. You know, a withdrawal in place is what the technical term is, and when you're withdrawing, that's a very vulnerable time. It's a high-risk time. And in a situation like this, working more closely with our allies to make sure that, you know, security is 100% on the ground is critical. But the enemy is going to attack us. The war with Islamic fundamentalist terrorists is never going to be over. We will always be fighting that battle, much like the war on drugs. It's never going to end. So, you know, where the enemy is, that's where we go and we fight them. And clearly, they show themselves where they are. We're going to go find them and kill them.
Yeah, and the theory is we fight them over there so we don't bring the fight to our soil.
Absolutely.
That's the theory anyway. Now, there's
Absolutely.
a fight. There's
Agreed,
a fight.
100%.
There's a fight, Congressman, obviously going on in Washington, D.C. right now vis-a-vis the shutdown and border security, permanent border security. We've just gotten word that Congress is not going to break apparently next week if the shutdown continues. I think that's a good start. It's not just symbolic. I think we need Congress in place. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think we should stay here until we get the job done. Much like the paychecks. You know, I was one of the first guys to come out and say, I'm not going to take a paycheck while we've got government employees not getting paid. We're not going home. We're not going to go celebrate something. We're not going to go to Puerto Rico and have a big conference. We're here to get the job done, and we'll stay as long as it's necessary to get it done.
How is the Republican caucus holding together? I mean, we've heard that maybe there are a few factions saying, hey, let's end this thing. The president is holding firm. And you know, God bless him for holding firm, because he's holding firm for national security. So how is the Republican caucus, in your opinion, holding together in light of all this?
I think the conference is solid. You know, I have not heard anyone come up and say, let's basically restart the government and then have negotiations. No one on our side wants to do that. We want to get the problem solved and then get on, because we all recognize it's a crisis. I mean, when you have 300 Americans dying every week due to a heroin overdose and 90% of the heroin's coming across the southern border, it's a crisis. And so I think we're standing lockstep. I've heard no one, not a single individual, say, well, let's go ahead and open the government and then have a negotiation, because we know at that point there won't be any negotiation.
The president has a bully pulpit via Twitter. And by the way, I was looking at your Twitter account. You need to catch up a little bit, Congressman. You could be out there. Maybe you don't have to be so prolific as the president, but you know, you could tweet a little bit more. I'd be interested in what you have to say. But the bottom line is the president is characterizing the Democrats for what they are, and that is they're really not interested in border security because this would mess up their business model, and their business model is pandering to Hispanics, and they think that this is going to get them votes, which will keep them in power. What the president is trying to get for us, all Americans, Democrat and Republican, and everybody in between, is permanent border security, a.k.a. national security at our southern border, which, as you mentioned, is being attacked by drugs. But it's not just drugs. It's illegal immigrants, garden variety illegal immigrants,
other
criminal
crimes.
illegal immigrants, it's terrorists, etc.
Yeah, the crisis has many dimensions, not just, you know, narcotics and heroin and fentanyl. I mean, the other aspects of it, of crime. You know, in my home state, we had a young man, a 22-year-old gentleman, was killed by an illegal just, I think it was a week ago. And while the government employees will get back pay, that family will never get their child back, or that young man back. It's the same with the corporal out in California. You know, that wife, that 5-month-old baby will never get their father and husband back. So we have to stop the crime. We have to protect our country. We have to protect Americans, because that's what we're charged to do. So the Republicans are standing firm. We're together, and we're not compromising.
You're among the freshman class for the Republicans. You don't have a committee assignment yet, as far as I know. Are you looking to be on some sort of Foreign Services Committee?
Actually, I think I heard this morning they voted, and I'm going to be on Homeland Security. So we're pretty excited about the opportunity.
I think you're a welcome addition to that from what I'm hearing, because I think you and I would agree this is a moment in time where the president is correct, standing firm to try and bolster the national security of this republic. Congressman Green, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.